The Mermaid's Bioluminescent Voyage. The waters of the Aralune Ocean were still that night, the surface a mirror to the vast, star-flecked heavens above. Beneath the gentle waves, the world was alive with muted colours. Shoals of glimmering fish weaving through coral forests, and the soft hum of distant whale songs filling the water like a sacred hymn. Yet, for Marin, the young mermaid with a tail shimmering in shades of silver and teal, this serenity was overshadowed by an unshakable restlessness. Marin drifted near her favourite coral alcove, her slender fingers tracing the ridges of the luminous seaweed that swayed like dancers in the gentle current. It was her haven, a place she retreated to when her heart felt heavy with questions too vast for words. Tonight was one of those nights. Marin, her grandmother's voice echoed in her mind. The abyss is no place for a young heart. It tempts the curious with false wonders and devours them whole. The abyss. It was the word that filled her people with both reverence and dread. A boundless chasm of darkness, it lay far beyond the safety of their coral cities, whispered about only in hushed tones. Yet Marin had always felt an inexplicable pull toward it, as though the darkness itself held secrets meant only for her. It was then she saw it, a flicker, faint and fleeting far below her. Marin froze, her pale green eyes narrowing as she focused on the spot where it had appeared. Again the flicker came, more deliberate this time, pulsing softly like the beat of a heart. It was unlike anything she had ever seen, a living light amidst the inky depths. Her heart quickened. What could it be? A reflection of some surface creature, perhaps? No, she thought. This light was different, almost purposeful. It was as though it wanted to be found. Marin hesitated, her tail curling instinctively around her. She could hear the warnings of her elders, the stories of merfolk who had chased the unknown into the abyss and never returned. Yet the flicker persisted, growing brighter and more rhythmic, as if beckoning her. The fear in her chest warred with something far stronger, an unrelenting curiosity, a sense that this was no mere coincidence. She took one last look at the coral alcove, her sanctuary, as though saying goodbye. Then, with a flick of her tail, she began her descent. The deeper Marin swam, the colder the water became, pressing against her like a shroud. The vibrant colours of her world faded, replaced by muted shades of blue and grey. She passed familiar landmarks, towering coral spires and sunken relics of ships long lost to time. As the light from above dimmed, the flicker below grew brighter, a steady pulse that cut through the darkness. Hours seemed to pass as she followed the glow, her surroundings growing more foreign with every flick of her tail. Strange, unearthly sounds filled her ears, a low hum that rose and fell like a whisper in an ancient tongue. The darkness thickened, wrapping around her like a living thing. but the light below remained her anchor. Finally, the ocean floor came into view. A barren expanse of black sand that seemed to stretch endlessly in every direction. The flicker, now a steady golden glow, emanated from a narrow fissure in the seabed. Marin hovered above it, her breath catching in her throat. The fissure seemed impossibly deep, its edges lined with strange bioluminescent markings that pulsed in time with the light. She knew what this was. Though the elders rarely spoke of them, she had overheard fragments of their stories. The paths of light, ancient trails said to lead to the heart of the abyss, where a treasure of unimaginable power lay hidden. Many had sought the paths, but none had ever returned to tell their tale. Marin's fingers trembled as she reached toward the glowing fissure. The markings seemed alive, shifting and swirling beneath her touch. The whispers grew louder, their melodic cadence both beautiful and unsettling. She hesitated, fear clawing at her resolve. But deep within her something stirred, a certainty that this was her moment, her purpose. Taking a deep breath, Marin plunged into the fissure, the light wrapping around her like a warm embrace. As she descended into the unknown, the whispers followed her, weaving through the water like a song, guiding her deeper into the abyss. And so began Marin's journey into the heart of the mystery, where light and darkness entwined, and the line between fear and wonder blurred with every beat of her heart. The fissure opened into an immense tunnel, its walls alive with glowing, shifting patterns. The light here was unlike anything Marin had seen before. Not merely a reflection or an illusion, but something vibrant, pulsing with an otherworldly energy. The patterns on the wall seemed to twist and spiral in response to her presence, their glow intensifying with each movement she made. Marin swam cautiously, her wide eyes darting across the cavern. The air, or rather the water itself, seemed charged, humming faintly in her ears. It was as though the entire tunnel was alive, watching her. Yet strangely, she didn't feel fear. Instead, she felt drawn forward, as though the light was not merely guiding her, but calling to her. The path twisted and turned, leading Marin deeper into the labyrinth. The walls grew narrower in some places, forcing her to navigate carefully, while in others they opened into vast chambers filled with shimmering bioluminescent flora. Great clusters of glowing anemones clung to the rocky walls, their soft tendrils swaying in unseen currents. Jellyfish drifted lazily overhead, their translucent forms pulsing with gentle hues of pink, blue, and gold. Marin paused in one of these chambers, her gaze drawn to a strange formation near the center. A ring of glowing coral encircled a single luminous stone that pulsed faintly like a heartbeat. She reached out to touch it, but as her fingers drew near, the whispers returned, clearer, now forming a soft melody that seemed to come from all around her. The whispers were not words, but emotions, curiosity, caution, and something deeper, a sense of purpose she couldn't quite name. Marin hesitated, her hand hovering over the stone, before the whispers seemed to shift, their tone more insistent. She withdrew her hand, understanding instinctively that this was not the treasure she sought. This was a test. The chamber began to dim, as if in acknowledgement of her decision, the light fading until the path ahead was illuminated once more. Marin swam onward, the passage narrowing again as the glow from the walls grew brighter, more intricate. The patterns now resembled symbols, their meaning elusive but tantalizingly familiar. The deeper she ventured, the more the cavern seemed to challenge her. Narrow crevices forced her to squeeze through, while sudden drops tested her courage. In one section, the tunnel split into 3 paths, each equally illuminated. Marin hesitated, her heart pounding as she studied the glowing trails. The whispers returned, faint but distinct, rising and falling in a melodic rhythm that seemed to echo her thoughts. To the left, the whispers seemed to urge. Marin turned, feeling the pull more strongly than before. The path she chose grew steeper, sloping downward into a vast open cavern that took her breath away. Here, the walls were adorned with intricate glowing murals. They depicted scenes of great beauty and mystery. Merfolk weaving trails of light through the darkness. A great sea dragon with luminous scales. And, at the center of it all, a radiant orb that seemed to illuminate the entire ocean. Marin floated before the murals, her heart pounding as she traced the lines with her eyes. The orb in the images resembled something she had seen before, something from the stories her grandmother had told her when she was small. The light of the abyss, a treasure of immense power, said to be hidden in the deepest part of the ocean. It was not a treasure of gold or jewels, but of pure energy, capable of bringing light to the darkest corners of the world. Marin's tail flicked nervously as she studied the murals. Was this what she was being led to? And if so, why her? She wasn't a hero or a great warrior. Just a curious young mermaid who had followed a flicker of light. As she pondered, the whispers grew louder, more urgent. They seemed to emanate from a small opening at the far end of the cavern. The path ahead was narrow and dark, the glowing walls dimming as she approached. Marin hesitated, a flicker of fear coursing through her. But the pull of the light was stronger, and she knew she couldn't turn back now. Summoning her courage, she swam into the opening, the darkness swallowing her as the whispers guided her forward. The path ahead was uncertain, but Marin knew she was moving closer to the heart of the mystery. Whatever lay ahead, it would change her forever. And so, she pressed on, deeper into the glowing caverns, the symbols and whispers, her only companions in the vast, enigmatic expanse of the abyss. The narrow passage twisted sharply, leading Marin into a realm of darkness so profound that even the bioluminescent glow seemed to falter. The whispers, once melodic and distant, now became an intimate murmur, threading through her mind like a song she had always known but could never fully recall. The air round her seemed heavier, thick, with the weight of an ancient presence. Marin's breathing quickened, her tail swishing cautiously as she navigated through the tightening tunnel. The water was eerily still, as if holding its breath, waiting. The glowing symbols on the walls, her guiding light, began to shift and rearrange, forming patterns that felt more deliberate. They pulsed faintly, as if urging her to look closer. She paused, her fingers brushing against one of the glowing patterns. It responded to her touch, rippling outward in waves of light that illuminated the tunnel briefly before fading. The whispers grew louder, their tone now laced with urgency. Marin strained to understand them, but they remained an enigma, a language beyond words, speaking to her soul rather than her ears. Ahead, the passage opened into another cavern, this one larger than the last. It was unlike anything Marin had ever seen. The chamber seemed to defy the natural laws of the ocean. The walls were a mosaic of shimmering light, their patterns forming intricate, swirling designs that shifted constantly. In the center of the cavern, suspended in mid-water, was a massive orb of dim, golden light. It pulsed slowly, its rhythm steady and hypnotic, like the beating heart of the ocean itself. Marin approached cautiously, the whispers now resonating with the orb's pulse. She felt her own heartbeat synchronizing with it. A strange, but not unpleasant sensation. The orb seemed to draw her in, its glow warm and inviting. Yet, there was a hesitation in her movements, an instinctive wariness that she couldn't shake. As she drew closer, the whispers coalesced into a haunting melody, wrapping around her like a gentle current. The riddle they formed was clearer now, though still enigmatic. To the worthy, the path is clear. To the pure, the light draws near. Seek the heart that knows no fear. The treasure lies where souls revere. The words lingered in her mind, their meaning tantalizingly close, yet just out of reach. Marin closed her eyes, letting the melody guide her thoughts. The path was clear, the riddle said. But how? What did it mean to be worthy? Was she pure of heart? She thought of the fears she had faced, the doubts that still lingered. Was she strong enough to claim the light? Her thoughts were interrupted by a sudden movement in the chamber. The glow of the orb flared, illuminating the cavern in brilliant gold. Marin shielded her eyes as the walls around her seemed to ripple and shift, revealing images carved into the light itself. The carvings depicted a story, a mermaid not unlike Marin, standing before a great sea dragon. The dragon's scales shimmered with radiant light, and in its claws, It held the very orb that floated before her now. The mermaid in the carving knelt before the dragon, her hands outstretched, as if offering something unseen. The next image showed the dragon lowering the orb into her grasp, its light enveloping her until she became one with its glow. Marin's heart raced as she stared at the images. The whispers swirled around her, their tone shifting from urgency to expectation. She turned back to the orb, now pulsing brighter and faster, as if sensing her understanding. The answer to the riddle was within her reach, but something held her back. A flicker of doubt, a fear she couldn't quite name. The chamber seemed to sense her hesitation. The whispers softened, their melody more soothing now, as if to reassure her. Marin took a deep breath, her resolve hardening. She stepped forward, her hands reaching toward the orb. As her fingers brushed its surface, a surge of energy coursed through her, filling her with warmth and light. The whispers crescendoed into a harmonious symphony, their song resonating through her very being. The light from the orb grew blinding, enveloping her completely. And for a moment, the world around her disappeared. In the stillness that followed, Marin opened her eyes to find herself standing in the same chamber. But everything had changed. The orb was gone, and the cavern's glow was brighter, more vibrant. The images on the walls now depicted her own journey, the final carving showing her holding the orb aloft, its light shining out into the darkness. The path ahead had been revealed, but Marin knew this was only the beginning. She could feel the weight of the whispers still guiding her, their song a promise of what lay ahead. She turned toward the newly opened passage, her heart steady and her mind clear. Marin swam forward, deeper into the depths, the light within her illuminating the way. The journey was far from over, but for the first time, she felt certain that she was ready to face whatever lay ahead. The passage narrowed, its walls closing in around Marin as she swam deeper into the heart of the abyss. The glow that had guided her so far flickered faintly, as though testing her resolve. The whispers, now a familiar presence, softened to an almost inaudible hum, leaving her alone with the steady rhythm of her heartbeat and the quiet swish of her tail. The stillness was oppressive, yet she felt no fear, only a strange anticipation, as if the water itself held its breath, waiting for what lay ahead. The tunnel suddenly opened into a vast expanse, so immense that its edges seemed to dissolve into darkness. At its center was an enormous stone dais, carved from black coral and etched with the same glowing symbols that had lit her path. Hovering above the dais was a creature of impossible majesty, the sea dragon. It was larger than any creature Marin had ever seen, its sinuous body coiled gracefully around the dais. Its scales shimmered like liquid silver, each one refracting light into hues of emerald and sapphire. Its eyes, twin orbs of radiant gold, pierced through the shadows, locking onto Marin with an intensity that made her chest tighten. It exuded an aura of ancient power, a being that had existed long before her world and would endure long after it. Marin stopped mid-swim, her body tense and her heart pounding in her ears. The dragon uncoiled slightly, its movements deliberate and fluid, as though every gesture held meaning. The glow emanating from its scales illuminated the cavern, casting shifting patterns of light across the walls. The whispers, silent until now, returned as a single voice, a deep, resonant tone that echoed within her mind. "You have come far, little one," the dragon said, its voice a blend of thunder and melody. "Few are bold enough to follow the light. Fewer still reach this place. Tell me, why have you come?" The question hung in the water, its weight pressing down on Marin. She hesitated, searching for the right words. The truth felt both simple and impossibly vast. I didn't know what I was seeking," she admitted, her voice trembling. "I saw the light and felt it calling to me. I had to follow it, even though I didn't understand why." The dragon tilted its head, its golden eyes narrowing. "Many have sought the light, believing it to be their salvation, their glory. But the light tests those who seek it. It reveals what lies within. What do you hope to find here? Power? Wisdom? Redemption?" Marin thought of the riddle, the murals, and the countless questions that had brought her to this moment. "I don't seek power," she said softly, "or riches. I only want to understand, to know why the light chose me." The dragon regarded her for a long moment, its gaze unreadable. Then it shifted, lowering its great head until it was level with hers. The cavern grew silent, the whispers fading into the background as the dragon's voice filled the space. "The light chooses those who are willing to face the darkness, not the darkness of the world, but the shadows within themselves. You have followed the path, braved the unknown, and stood before me with a heart unclouded by greed or fear. You are worthy, Marin." The dragon's scales shimmered brighter, and the air seemed to vibrate with a low hum. From the center of the dais, a smaller orb of light appeared, floating upward until it rested between them. It was the same golden light Marin had seen in the murals, the treasure at the heart of the abyss. Its glow was soft yet powerful, casting a warm radiance that seemed to reach into the very depths of her soul. "This is the light of the abyss," the dragon said. "It is not merely a treasure, but a gift, a power to heal, to guide, to illuminate the darkest places. But it comes at a cost. To wield the light, you must carry its weight. You must bear its responsibility. Do you accept this, knowing the path it will set before you?" Marin hesitated, her mind racing. She thought of her home, her people, the stories she had heard of the light's power. She thought of the darkness she had faced on this journey, and the strength it had awakened within her. With a deep breath, she met the dragon's gaze and nodded. "I accept." The dragon's golden eyes glowed with approval. "Then the light is yours, Keeper." The orb drifted toward Marin, its warmth enveloping her as it merged with her being. A rush of energy surged through her, filling her with a brilliance that was both overwhelming and comforting. Her tail and hair began to shimmer with golden light, the glow spreading through her like an unquenchable flame. The cavern erupted in light, the dragon's roar echoing like a triumphant song. Marin stood bathed in the radiance, her heart steady and her purpose clear. She was no longer just a seeker. She was a keeper, a bearer of the light of the abyss. And her journey was far from over. As the light enveloped Marin, the cavern transformed around her. The once dark walls now gleamed with golden luminescence, their intricate symbols glowing like constellations in the ocean's abyss. The whispers, once fragmented and mysterious, coalesced into a harmonious symphony, resonating through her very being. The melody spoke not in words, but in emotions, hope, courage, and a profound sense of purpose. Marin floated in the radiant glow, her body thrumming with the energy of the light. It wasn't a simple illumination. It was alive, a force that intertwined with her essence. She could feel it coursing through her veins, filling every fiber of her being with warmth and strength. It was as though the light had awakened a part of her she hadn't known existed. The sea dragon watched her transformation with a solemn gaze, its massive form now bathed in the golden light. "The light of the abyss is yours, Marin," it said, its voice echoing like a deep, resonant bell. "But the journey is not yet complete. The light is not a treasure to hoard. It is a gift to share. It is both a burden and a blessing, one that will test you in ways you cannot yet imagine." Marin nodded, her heart steady. She felt no fear, only a quiet determination. "I understand," she said softly. "What must I do?" The dragon unfurled its great wings, their translucent membranes shimmering with iridescent hues. The light must return to the world. It is a beacon for those lost in the darkness, a flame that kindles hope where none remains. Your task is to carry it to where it is most needed. Trust the whispers. They will guide you. With a final piercing gaze, the dragon began to dissolve into the light, its form breaking into a cascade of glowing particles that swirled around Marin like a gentle current. The symphony of whispers swelled, carrying with it the dragon's final words. "Go forth, Keeper, and let the light shine through you." As the last of the dragon's form faded, the cavern began to shift once more. The dais crumbled into dust, and the walls shimmered as though the entire space were dissolving. Marin felt a gentle pull, as though the ocean itself was guiding her, and she allowed the current to carry her upward. The light within her pulsed in rhythm with the whispers, steady and reassuring. When she emerged from the cavern, the abyss no longer felt like a place of fear. The once oppressive darkness seemed lighter, less menacing, as if the light she carried had begun to push it back. She swam upward, her tail gliding effortlessly through the water, her path illuminated by the glow radiating from within her. As Marin approached the outskirts of her home, the transformation became evident. The coral spires that marked the edge of her village shimmered with a faint golden hue, as though the light within her had begun to spread outward. The merfolk who noticed her arrival gasped, their eyes widening in awe at the radiant glow that surrounded her. "Marin!" a voice called, a voice she recognized. Her grandmother swam forward, her expression a mixture of astonishment and pride. "Child, what has happened to you?" Marin hesitated, the weight of her journey pressing upon her. "I found the light," she said simply. "And now, I must share it." Her grandmother's eyes glistened with tears, and she nodded as if understanding more than Marin had said. The whispers stirred again, urging Marin forward, and she knew her task was only beginning. In the days and weeks that followed, Marin's light became a beacon for her people. She healed the wounded with a touch, her light mending not only broken bodies but broken spirits. She ventured to the darkest corners of the ocean, guiding lost souls back to safety. Her glow cutting through the shadows like a flame in the night. The glowing trails she had followed on her journey began to appear across the ocean, not as a path to the abyss, but as markers for others seeking hope. Marin understood now. The light was not hers alone. It was a gift meant to inspire, to heal, and to guide. Years later, the legend of Marin, the keeper of light, would be whispered through the waves, a tale carried by the currents to every corner of the ocean. It was said that her light never faded, that it lived on in the trails that glowed beneath the waves and in the hearts of those she touched. And though Marin's journey began with a single flicker in the abyss, it ended with a radiance that illuminated the world, proving that even in the deepest darkness, the light of hope and courage would always prevail.